Hey there, good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. Bonnie Bragdon. I currently serve as the president of the Independent Veterinary Practitioners Association, and part of my passion is to share with all of our colleagues and members all of the great experts we have access to in our profession. And today I'm going to have a conversation with Jan Woods. And we'll first start off with an introduction. So Jan, tell me about yourself and what it is that you do.
Hi, Bonnie. Thanks for having me today. I'm Jan Woods. I am currently the co-founder of a company called Ask Jan for Help. Ask Jan for Help enables veterinarians to access all kinds of business information 24/7. It also enables them to talk to consultants that they might need, such as legal or HR or regulatory. I even have an ex-DEA agent who just retired included in Ask Jan for Help. We also have people who help find employees. That's a hard gig right now. But Ask Jan for Help allows the members to call and ask myself or my colleagues any question Monday through Friday that will help them operate their business. I'm a former veterinary practice owner. I'm currently quite active in speaking on the speaking circuit and have for the last couple of years. You may have read one of my articles in the Veterinary Practice News, and I do a lot of consulting. Prior to that, I was in the human side of medicine. That's a brief overview of who I am and what I do.
Nice. And what I'm really passionate about, I really love working with folks like yourself because you're professionals who serve the needs of the veterinary industry. And just like our veterinary members who are small business owners, you yourself are a small business owner. And so I love that fact that you can bring those services and we can kind of help each other, practice owners as well as independent consultants. So I'm really glad to have you here this afternoon.
Thank you,
So
Bonnie.
Jan, I know you've been involved yourself. So you at one point were a practice owner with a group of other veterinarians and professionals. So you've had the experience of selling a practice, and now you have extensive experience with working with practice owners. So what are your thoughts on the pros and cons of keeping a practice independent versus selling it to a corporate entity? What works, what doesn't work?
Sure. It's kind of a long question and answer, but I'll try to make it as succinct as possible. I think it's really difficult to answer that question because each practice and each owner has different needs. And it's obvious that corporate medicine is here to stay. But there are alternatives to selling your practice. And I think it's important that the veterinary practitioner accesses organizations such as the Independent Veterinary Practice Association, accesses Ask Jan, accesses all the educational opportunities and the people that are out there to help them make the decision if they want to sell or if they want to stay in practice or if they want to sell to maybe a partner within their practice. It's definitely a lifestyle choice. Usually I hear doctors tell me that they're just plain tired. They're tired of trying to run a practice and trying to practice medicine. As you know, running a practice and business that's profitable, as well as practicing medicine, is two full-time jobs. And it does wear on you. And I can understand them wanting to make a lifestyle choice. But educating themselves to the choices that are out there is probably the most important step.
Yeah, and so how could somebody engage a consultant like yourself? So if, let's say I'm a solo practitioner, I'm getting on the edge of being able to manage everything. Maybe I have a practice manager, maybe I don't. So how could they work with a professional like yourself to make their life better?
Sure, great question. So I think the first thing to do is make the realization is you can't do it all on your own all the time. You want to practice the best possible medicine. And as one of my clients told me the other day, Jan, I am here 2 hours a night, every night before I can go home. I'm holding my staff late. I'm late getting home for dinner. It is absolutely imperative that I figure out a way to change my scheduling and figure out a way to practice medicine and practice business. So he's part of Ask Jan. He actually accesses help. He's asked for help with redoing his scheduling. He's asked for help writing marketing pieces. He's looking at alternatives to bring in other doctors, to bring in other services, and to just help him run the day-to-day operations of his practice. In his particular case, he is a solo veterinarian and doesn't have access to a practice manager. So he's using Ask Jan and would absolutely make a good candidate for the Independent Veterinary Practitioners Association, because that knowledge that there's more brains in the room really is true and helps everybody realize how to run their practices more efficiently. I was the previous president of Veterinary Specialty Practice Alliance. That's the reason we met twice a year, is to have that brain power in the room to help us learn how to run a profitable business and run our medicine at the high standards that we wanted to.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing you say is that nobody can go it alone. There's just too much to know, too much to do. Medicine is constantly evolving. There's a lot to keep up there. At the same time, the practice needs help when it comes to management. And so by working with professionals such as yourself, a lot of that can be offloaded. Instead of spending hours and hours and hours researching a question, they can simply call you and get that answer pretty quick, is what I hear you say.
Absolutely. And I think the more and more they spin and worry about practicing a successful business as well as practicing medicine, it makes them more and more miserable. And then they get to the point to where they think there isn't any other alternatives. But there is. I mean, I would encourage them strongly, and I do, to look at ways to bring in partners or to sell their business to the partners that they're working with. It's not unlikely that they're going to find somebody within the industry that really wants to own a practice. So there are options, and I encourage them to explore every option with every professional that's out there.
So actually, you made me think about two questions. So let's say I'm a solo practitioner. I really, and maybe I have a lead technician that's helping me do certain things. How do I go from no practice manager to finding the right practice manager? And then how do I delegate? How do I work with that person to maximize their efficiency?
Right. So I think it's a great question. And I think one of the things that I would highly encourage veterinarians to do is, actually, there's a couple things. One is, don't hire somebody just like yourself, because you're going to get somebody doing exactly what you would be doing. You need a different opinion. Now, that opinion doesn't have to be adversarial, but you certainly need to get other opinions. I would highly recommend that you don't hire your kennel attendant because he or she is threatening to leave your practice if you don't promote them. Hiring a qualified business manager that can run your business and run your finances is very, very, very important. Probably the most important step you're going to take to running a profitable business. And like it or not, if we don't have revenue, we certainly don't have the ability to hire more people, run a better practice better medicine, and we don't have the ability to grow.
What are your thoughts? It was really interesting what you said. Is I've seen so many times that practices will, promote folks into a new role, and that it's always very good to promote from within. It's very important to do that. However, there are times when it's kind of a stretch promotion. That person may never have done management in the past, and a lot of those folks do great, and they have become great professionals, and they've done wonderfully well. What are your thoughts on maybe hiring a manager who doesn't have veterinary experience, but really has good management experience? Is that a good decision? How do you transition that person? What are your thoughts?
That's a great question, because when I started in the veterinary industry, I was on the human side. I've been on the human side forever. And I ran hospitals and practices all over the country. So I understood multi-site. I understood 100 employees at one time asking me questions. So all I had to do was learn the semantics of the veterinary industry. However, it's not a big stretch between human and veterinary medicine. They are so identical. It's the only difference I can think is one has 2 legs and one has 4 legs. The diagnoses, the prognoses, the treatment, the medication, all those things tend to be exactly the same. So I would encourage you to look at somebody who comes from the human side of medicine if they specifically have management experience. I spent years teaching my managers, almost 15, how to be a manager. Just because they're the big kid on the on the playground and they hit their chest doesn't mean that they're the right person for the position. A manager is not about power. It's about getting everybody to get along and get to the right answer as quickly as possible. That's a couple of the things. There's many other things, but those are certainly skill sets. I had a background in psychiatry and psychology as well, and I can honestly tell you that very much helped me understand the dynamics of just human interactions and how to get people moving in the same direction. So I would not encourage you to hire a manager that does not have great people skills and doesn't understand the business of the medical business. Definitely, it's an alternative, and I would encourage you to look at the human side if you can't find somebody on the vet side. However, I can tell you there's a lot of good choices on the vet side.
Yeah, and what I would also say to our practice managers, because we do have some practice managers and technicians who belong to IVPA, just a shout out to VHMA, the Veterinary Hospital Managers
Absolutely.
Association. So if you are looking to be promoted and want to be a strong candidate, they have some wonderful resources there. And also for those who are practice owners who are wanting to promote from within, they're great sources of education to get those folks what they need so they make a smooth, good transition. Because the worst thing to do is to put somebody in a position they can't handle.
Yeah, because when they're unsuccessful, they're miserable. And if they're miserable, then everybody around them is miserable, unless you're an Oscar award winner and you can fake it all day long. You really can't. So I 100% agree with you. And I would like to say that there's probably people out there that are a kennel attendant today that are getting their master's degree in management. So it's just important that you look at who's going to lead your people. And I'd like to say one other thing. It's important that whoever the doctor chooses, that they do a couple of things. One, they need to educate the manager in what their beliefs and their desires are for the practice. And then they need to step back and let the manager manage the practice. All too often, I hear managers tell me, I would love to do this, but the doctor won't let me. The doctor agreed, but now he won't let me. So it's important that we hire them, we hire right, and then we train them, and then we support them.
Yeah, onboarding, training, frequent check-ins to make sure communications are shared. And one of the most important things, just to build on your point, is this idea of shared values, because I've seen it in my own practice where if you don't share the same medical values, the same belief systems around how animals should be treated, that can be a really big source of discordance. So checking out those values and making sure that you're on the same page and sharing that,
Absolutely.
that those values is good.
And make sure you like them. Make sure you like who it is, so you can support them willingly, because you've got to show your staff that you support that manager. Otherwise, you've got World War III between the front and the back and all of the areas in between. So you've got to show a united front. You know, I used to tell my partners, look, it doesn't matter if we don't agree behind these closed doors, but what we are going to do is agree to disagree and decide on what that point is we're telling the staff, and we're going to go down to the floor with a united front. And I'll tell you, it works.
Yes. And, you know, I think sometimes as a practice owner, it's hard to take a risk, right? It's hard to let somebody fail. It's hard to let them struggle, but that's an important part for them, is to be able to have that experience where they can manage things. And if they fail, that's a learning experience and they will recover. Absolutely. And as long as you keep the training wheels on, everything's going to be okay. Now,
absolutely. I just want to add one thing to that. Yeah. You know, Bonnie, no doctor came out of vet school and didn't make mistakes.
Yes.
That's how they learn. So the manager isn't going to be any different, just to support them.
Yes. And we learn from our mistakes, and people recover, but you gotta kind of let them have that autonomy to get things done for you.
Absolutely.
So second question, based on what you had said earlier, is that let's say I am a practice owner who's looking to maybe turn over management to a partner. I'm looking for that partner. How do I, let's say I've even identified a partner, an associate veterinarian or somebody. or maybe even a practice manager as a partner. I've seen those relationships work really well as well.
Mhm.
So how do I structure that? How do I find the legal advice to structure that arrangement so it works for everybody?
Right. Great question. So I would encourage veterinarians, no matter what their decision is, if they're going to sell to a corporate entity or if they're going to promote from within their partners that they have or bring in a partner, don't be in a hurry. You didn't build your practice overnight. There is no reason to make this decision overnight. If you are not so miserable that you can stand another couple months of figuring out what it is you really want and setting down the values that you want and what is the legacy you want to leave, then you can probably find somebody that fits in with your value structure who will help relieve the stress that you're under. And so I would recommend that if you have people within, which is what we did at our practice, we had people that actually wanted to buy in. It was part of their agreement with us that after X, I think we had, what do we have? I think after 3 years, they could have the option of buying in. Every year we had the practice evaluated by a professional practice evaluator so that we knew what it was worth. And then whatever that price was that year, if that person was the right candidate, then they could buy in at that price. Now, I had probably 6 pages of questions front and back that they had to answer why they wanted to be a partner. And those questions led them to understand that managing is one of the hardest jobs they're ever going to undertake. It's even harder sometimes than your hardest clinical case.
Yes.
Because you don't always have objective findings like you do with medicine in front of you. So consequently, they had to answer those 6 questions, the 6 pages. And if they didn't want to answer them, that was a pretty good indicator to me that they didn't want to really put in the work to be a partner. They understood what the meeting requirements were. They understand what their requirements were to work with staff. They understood the united front. All of those things are important. So again, we're back to education, finding a person within the system, the veterinary system, that can educate you before you make the decision to either sell or bring in a partner. I've always told my partners, look, the goal is that we make this so successful that all of we owners can go to the house and still get money every month by the people that are left behind managing the business and practicing medicine. So education really and truthfully is out there. It's available, and take advantage of it. Don't hurry. Make the right educated choices and do your steps gradually. And if you want to bring in a partner and you want to make them a partner within, let's say, a year, that's okay. Just make the steps formal and part of the agreement with them so they understand what's expected of them and you understand what they're going to do to fulfill your desires to bring in a partner.
Just so I know, ask Jan, do you all have a lawyer or any kind of legal access? Okay, good.
Yeah. In fact, you know Charlotte Lacroix, don't you?
Yes.
She's an Ask Jan.
Yes.
Yes, she handles a lot of those questions and helps you with that. I also have Leslie Mamalis, if you know her. So she can help you with valuations of the practice and help you understand what you should be getting out financially and what you should expect. And then Charlotte, of course, can help with the contract or the agreement, whichever word sits better on your tongue.
Perfect. Wonderful. And so what would your top 3 suggestions be for alleviating stress and preventing burnout as a practice owner?
Well, I think we've kind of talked about them. That is, get help, get the right help, train them, support them, and teach them your dreams. Because if you don't tell them your dreams and if you don't step back and let them fulfill that business side, you're still running the practice. And please keep in mind, you still have to provide oversight. You can't let that person run free. You have to provide oversight. Even myself as an owner, I insisted on oversight by not only my partners, but also by a CPA who kept us straight. And so I would encourage that you provide oversight, get the right oversight. Call Ask Jan. We've got all the people you can think of. If you go to our website at www.askjanforhelp, you'll see all of the professionals and the areas that are available. I would also encourage you to hire somebody who already has management experience. As I started to say earlier, management is absolutely an art, just like medicine is, but it also takes a long time to learn it. I wish I would have known then what I know now about managing people. So I highly recommend an educated person. And if you can't find one, we can help you. There's a lot of people that belong to Ask Jan who don't have managers. They're using us to help them with the finances, the HR, the regulations, the legal, anything you can think of. Even finding a doctor or a technician or a technician manager for you. All those services are out there.
Perfect. Well, I think that has covered just about everything we wanted to talk about. Was there anything else you'd like to share with the IVPA members?
Yeah, I want to encourage the IVPA members to talk to their friends about becoming members of the IVPA.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Coming from running an organization like Veterinary Specialty Practice Alliance for 8 years as the president, it's important that we realize the power of the brain trust in the room. You can't do it by yourself. There's no way. You're there to practice medicine and you're there to practice high standards of medicine, but you also have to run the business operations to make a profit. So I encourage you to join an organization like IVPA to get the support and camaraderie that you deserve every day.
Well, wonderful, Jen. Thank you so much for your time today. And again, we encourage you to check out Ask Jan. We'd love to have you join if you aren't already a member. And again, to Jan's point, you don't need to go it alone. There's a lot of support out there, and networking just helps you find that right expertise to help you get through the day with less stress and less burnout.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Doctor, for having me today. I look forward to meeting a lot of your IVPA members. I look forward to seeing you at the Women's Leadership Conference in August in Kansas City. Keep our fingers crossed that everything works out. We never know with COVID, but I hope to see you there. I hope to see everybody else there. There's a great opportunity to educate yourself in leadership.
I'm so excited to get that started. Thank you, Jan.
Thank you. Have a great day.